Hey folks, today's April 17th. It's 7:16 p.m. and let's take a look and see what went on today. Um, Pretty much garbage. I think we're starting to get a taste of what I mentioned either last video or the video before that, some pullback basically. So take a look at the S&P here. I was mentioning how I really don't like this, whatever this is. I just don't like it. Doesn't look very good. Doesn't look very productive. Doesn't look like anything we can kind of launch off of. It doesn't look like a base. It just kind of looks like going up for the sake of going up. And then now we're getting, well, the action we got today, basically. Pulling back, weakness. So there's the S&P. Looking at the NASDAQ, same kind of thing. This does not look productive for upside to me at all. We can't bounce off that. That's not a base. Just not breakouts. So now we're starting to get these big. We're starting to get a bit of a bigger red bar there. The Russell is a good indication of what's going to happen, I think. All the way down to the 200 bounced off, but I don't think it's going to hold that. I think the Russell will probably be the first one to go. And then we'll see what the rest of the market does. But we're going to be pulling back, I think. That's what I think. I mentioned last video that I wanted to wait before I made any more trades. I did try Netflix today because right near the open there, it looked like volume was going to pour in and the price was going to go up. My line was a little bit lower than where it is right now, and you could probably, it kind of went over. And to me, it looked like, the volume was pouring in and the price was starting to go up. So I tried it, and then boom, it took off to the downside, and that was it. So having a second, this is my second trade where a breakout failed in the past couple days. That tells me this is no longer a good market. When breakouts start failing, that's when something is changing, something's changing. Most of the time, if you get really good upside or the market's pulled back for a while and it starts to feel like it's going to go, you get a breakout, bang, that thing takes off. You can set your stop and know that it's going to go up. But when you start getting breakouts that fail, which I have two now in 2 days, no, the market's bad. It's changing. So looking at trade desk, now this is something that I want to start watching for is if we're going to get weak or we're going to start pulling back, what is going to hold up during that? I don't think many of these types of patterns are actually going to hold. We're going to have to wait and see. There's going to be some level of pullback, but then how far? We're going to start finding support levels, and we're going to have to see what happens. But trade desk is one of the strong ones. It pulled back and still stopped at the ascending line. My guess is that line is still going to break at some point to the downside. DOMO closed below the lower line, but again, a big red bar, not good. We'll have to see if maybe the market changes and upside shows up. I doubt it. I think we're still going to pull back. Anyway, that closed out of the pattern. It's probably done. We'll see what happens. Same thing with now. Still in the pattern. Now this is one. The problem is something like ServiceNow has such a big pattern. Like this is almost like complete and ready for it to break out from, but it's starting to pull back. So because it's such a big pattern, if we start getting downside, there's no way this line is going to hold, because there's nothing left for it to bounce off of. It's already contracting. It's already getting really tight in that pattern. And the pattern has to break, basically. That's pretty much what that means. As it gets tighter and tighter, it has to break some way. And it's symmetrical too, so downside is probably coming. Now you might think, well, why didn't I short it? Maybe you could, but I don't know that we're going to get so much of a pullback that the overall trend will change to a very strong downside that'll last for a long period of time. So I wouldn't short anything. You might be able to do it for a day or two, maybe. I mean, I think that's a bit risky. It may work, very short period, very short term shorts if you're going to try to do it. But yeah, I think that something like ServiceNow will most likely break the lower line. LULU looked good. Now this is one that's kind of confusing too. The pattern's not very big, but it's almost complete. It could go sideways for another few days and still be forming up the triangle. But as the lower line gets higher and higher and higher, you're not going to have a triangle anymore. It's going to have to break the line at some point. So it still kind of looks strong. So, you know, if the market just magically takes off one day and I'm wrong and it's going to fly to the upside, LULU looks great if that's going to happen. I don't know that that's going to happen, but LULU still looks okay. So this is one where, you know, the pattern looks great and it's holding up. The way the indexes look, I can't see upside happening, like very, very big upside days coming. I can't see that happening. Etsy broke the lower line. And this is turned into a symmetrical triangle. I mean, maybe I could draw it down here and it would still work. Draw it down here even at the open of this day here. Maybe. I'm really stretching to try to make that pattern work, honestly. I think it's going to just keep going. I mean, it could even be where I draw the line across here. And it's a descending channel then. I've been struggling to find the lower line on that pattern. The upper line's still fine, obviously, but, you know, things are getting weak, so trying to find support levels in that thing. I'll have to take another look at it. AYX is still within its pattern, but again, indexes are starting to look weak, such as this, as an example. This thing had a nice little flag that it just turned over and boop, closed out of the pattern. Doesn't look good. YETI held up pretty good. So that's another one that kind of looks like LULU, where it actually had an up day, or it actually bounced off of something and stayed up. What I have seen happen before is you'll start getting weakness in certain sectors right away, like biotech, for example. We'll look at LABU here. It just got smoked with huge volume. So that thing's done. But YETI, as an example, while you have biotech selling off, YETI and LULU are kind of holding up, even though I think they're in completely different sectors. But eventually they'll roll over too. It's just a matter of, you know, things break down over time. Paylocity kind of tried to go, didn't really get going. I don't see that one working ultimately. And there's another example. Xilinx was green with a doji kind of spinning top bar on the day. So it didn't really sell up that hard, even though the market was choppy and yucky and reddish. So if you're in Xilinx, you still look okay, just hold your stop, but I don't know, overall market's getting pretty weak looking. Shopify pulled back, bounced off the 21 day, still up. We'll see what happens. Match, so Match even got smoked yesterday, holding the 21 day line today. Talked about this yesterday. If you're in from right here and your stop is below that, you know, you're still in, even though it's swinging really, really wildly. So I'm just saying, be very cautious of this market. I think it's getting ready to roll over. This guy, again, you're in from right there, you're in really good position. So for me, typically when I trade a stock like that, my stop is down here and I let all this stuff happen. Obviously, you don't want it to break down. It's holding the 21 day, which is a really good sign. But my stop would be down there waiting for a new pattern to form and another breakout, so you have a new technical place to set a new stop. Palo Alto, weak, breaking down. FANG was actually up, so that's interesting. So again, that's another area that's up when the overall market is down and some other sectors are just getting absolutely destroyed. iRobot held up pretty good. Blue, this is a biotech. Look at that, devastated, finished. Man, biotech got smoked today. What happened? Coupa, so now this was an ascending triangle that it broke out of, came up, and everything just failed. Not good. See, that's another area. Doesn't look good. And then MDB, same thing. So some of the techs, even though it wasn't chips, like Xilinx is, maybe it's more specific, 5G chips. That's it. I believe Xilinx is a 5G manufacturer. Maybe that was moving with Qualcomm, in sympathy of Qualcomm. Possibly, let me see NVIDIA here. I think it was red. Yeah, red, just kind of holding on. You know, I don't like it. I don't like the market Like I said, two failed breakouts in a row. You know, Netflix tried, failed. Paylocity I tried, failed. That's enough for me. I'm waiting, basically. I'm going to be waiting. Yeah, this just does not look good to me, man. This has to roll over. Here's what I think is going to happen. We break that 21-day line, we're coming all the way down to this. It might ultimately touch this, bounce off, and be held up by the 50-day, which is fine. That's exactly what I'd want to see. And then a whole big period of just sideways action. Just chop up, down, up, down, up, down, form a nice new ascending triangle or something after this, and then we can have a new base we can actually break out from. But I'm not making another trade in this market until something like that happens. I need to see downside. I need to see the whole thing pull back. Well, that's where I'm thinking. That's what I'm watching for. That's what I hope happens, because it's going to create new opportunities where we will actually be able to break out and go higher. So that's it. What is today? Wednesday? 17? There will be another video tomorrow, and we'll just see what happens in this market. I'll see you then.